Hi, this is Debbie Q, and you're listening to The Right Show. The Right Show is a podcast about all things strange and unusual, especially in reference to a death. This case was brought to my attention by a listener, and we are going to talk to her today. I had never heard of Leon Moser. Apparently, there's only 3 people since 1976 that have been electrocuted in Pennsylvania. There was a Keith Zettelmoyer who he murdered his friend Dave Betsko. He was the first person to be executed in Pennsylvania since the United States had reinstated the death penalty. And the last person was Gary Michael Heidnik because of Silence of the Lambs' uber serial killer famous. And then we have a Leon Jerome Moser, who was 52 when he was given a lethal injection. It was August 16, 1995. It's a sad story. Now, the girl that we're about to talk to, she was the friend of the daughter who was shot. This daughter was the last person shot. I think I'm going to talk to her first. Her name is KP. Leon Moser was a father who was in a wicked custody battle, but the story goes deep. So I think he shot his entire family in a church parking lot, with the third one being Donna. There was a Joanne, a Donna, and his wife, who seemed to have been long-suffering. Her name was Linda. And the last person who had been shot was Donna. Like I always say, if many people are shot, there's always a last person to be shot. To be that last person, I mean, those end moments have to be excruciating, especially when it's your father, somebody who you loved and trusted and is supposed to take care of you. I'm going to tell the story after I talk with the listener who brought this to my attention. Right now, I have...
Hello and welcome to Stolen From Me by Lindsay, a true crime weekly podcast and YouTube channel. I've covered such cases as Molly McLaren, Susan Capper, and Gemma Hayter. Each week, we take a look at each individual case and try to bring as much awareness to it as possible. You can find me on all your favourite podcast platforms and YouTube at Stolen From Me by Lindsay. Thank you and see you all soon. Goodbye.
Stolen From Me, I've listened to for a long time. I love it. I strongly recommend. At work, I can't really watch things, but I can listen to them. So to me, being able to listen to true crime all day I love it. There's my business end of The Right Shoe. You know me, therightshoepodcast.com. I'm slowly putting everything to YouTube where I have pictures, where there's a lot of changes coming. Me and Lyndon are going to collaborate more. Well, there goes another cop car. Maybe that adds authenticity to it. I don't know. I am getting all my podcasts up on YouTube. Wherever people like to listen to it, it's fine with me. It'll always be in both places, on podcasting platforms and YouTube from now on. But YouTube is taking me a little longer. Video, it's always tougher to edit. Regardless, I am going to call KP.
Hi, Debbie.
This is KP. She was friends with Donna.
So I grew up in Northeast Philadelphia, and we didn't have a Girl Scout branch near us, but we had a group called Girls Friendly Society, which is very similar to Girl Scout. And I joined the local branch in Northeast Philadelphia, and every year the different branches from Pennsylvania and New Jersey, they go down to Cape May for summer camp, and you stay in a place called Holiday House, which was a house when they died. They donated it to the Girls Friendly Society. So it's still there in Cape May. When you go down to the shore for the summer with the Girls Friendly branches, you meet different girls from Pennsylvania and from Jersey, and you make friendships that, last a lifetime. And they're some of my favorite memories of my childhood, is being down in Cape May and meeting different people. That's how I met Donna. She was from Collegeville, which isn't really far from Northeast Philly, but when you're a 9, 10, 11-year-old girl, it's far.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So during the school year, we would just write letters back and forth, and we would look forward to seeing each other again the following summer. So that's how I met Donna, and her mother and her sister. They all came to Holiday House in the summer. So I got to meet all three of them. But Donna and I were close in age. I was 13 when she died. She was 14. But we met when I was about 10, and she was 11. So we were friends for a couple of years. And then it was Palm Sunday. I was home. I remember watching the news with my dad, and I saw what happened. It said there was a shooting outside a church in Collegeville. And when they said the names of the victims, I just lost it. I mean, this is a girl that I know, and I'm 13 years old, and I know somebody now that was murdered by her own father.
And that is literally the first time you heard it.
I saw it on TV. It was probably the 5 or 6 o'clock news. Now, it happened, I guess, 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. But back then, you didn't have cell phones. You didn't have social media. So you found out when everybody found out, which was on the news or in the paper. I remember seeing it in the paper the next day, which showed me more details of what happened.
As a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old, or you were 14?
I was 13.
You were 13.
I think she was in 9th grade.
Oh, my God. And that has to be completely traumatizing as a 13-year-old girl. It's really, I'm trying to get back into my mindset at 13 to find out that somebody that you were seeing every year at camp, not only are you not going to say, but like you said, it's from her own father. They said it wasn't like he was mean to them. I think the parents they seemed to genuinely love their father. Those last minutes had to be, because even the people in the parking lot, the husband said, my wife is completely traumatized. They didn't even want their names. They were so scared at that point. It said they didn't want their names said because I guess they didn't catch Leon yet, or I don't know the exact details, but they were still afraid, so they didn't want their names.
I thought that he had laid down and waited for police, because I heard that he fired the rifle into the air. Some people thought that he took his own life, but when the police got there, he wasn't injured.
Wow, yeah, it was a little murky. And then they were saying, like, he was in the army and he was a great soldier. He just seemed like, I don't know, he obviously had issues. It was just the timeline was so bizarre. It seemed like, from what I read, that there was violence in their marriage, and she wanted to get away from him, obviously. And then I guess the divorce, and he kept saying, oh, you to the courts, you ruined my life, like it's their fault. And I guess that last thing with the kids, but to have the shotgun in the trunk, he obviously,
That was premeditated.
Right.
He was expecting her to say no to taking the girls to Wisconsin, and he had it in the trunk in case she said no. So, if she had said yes, maybe they would still be here. Maybe he would have killed the girls in Wisconsin.
That's true. I never even thought about that. Why he asked her to take that. That's far. If she's living in PA, I wouldn't want to do it. To be that far, PA to Wisconsin, I'm sure she didn't want them with him anyway. At the end, it seemed like their court hearings were so contentious. When they were getting the divorce proceedings. And she had actually dropped when he had put the knife a year prior, she had dropped that charge just so that they could speed up the divorce proceedings. Mm-hmm. I guess she just wanted it done and over with. So she, thought she was doing the right thing. And
But obviously her instincts were correct about not letting him take the girls because he killed them.
She knew. Did you go back to the camp? Did they talk about it?
I went one more summer. It was that following July. But in May, we had a local, it was like a gathering of all the different Pennsylvania branches where each branch gets to put on like a little skit and you get to do crafts and you get to, you know, gather together like one Saturday in May. So it was like a month after she had died. And I remember her branch, their skit, I don't want to say this to sound like mean or anything, but their skit wasn't really good. And it's probably because they've just been through a trauma. All these girls just lost somebody really close to them. So when they announced the winners, they came in first place, and everybody was just like, oh my God, like, this is for Donna. You know what I mean? This is for Donna and Joanne. So it was sad that they weren't there. Then to go to Cape May in July, and Donna and Joanne were supposed to be there, and they weren't there. So a lot of the things were dedicated to them, and that was when I entered high school, so I stopped going after that. But, I mean, some of my favorite childhood memories are with being with these people. I can't, you know, have Palm Sunday without thinking of them. I'll never go through Palm Sunday for the rest of my life without thinking of them.
You know, that's something that this guy... And it just kind of I don't know what this sounds like. It just irritates me that he shoots them and then he doesn't shoot himself. It just, I mean, come on, like, you just shot them and then you're gonna.
Now you're getting chicken out.
Yeah.
A lot of people that knew them said that you should have just finished yourself.
And then you're begging them to give you the death penalty.
He wasted all that money in court, and they kept him alive for 11 years, and then they put him to death with the lethal injection. But he could have saved all that trouble if he would have just taken his own life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, like, it's a shame to say, but it's true. It just is. It wasted time, money, and I just can't imagine this poor kid. It really does break my heart for these kids and anybody that was in.
It breaks my heart when any kind of domestic person takes the lives of their child and or spouse.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're that unhappy, you know, take your own life. Why would you take your family with you?
Yeah, that's true. Why? Yeah, why do they do that? Like, that's another question. You're so miserable that you're gonna, like, not let them flourish. If you truly love your kids.
How can you not have, like, love for your kids that you just want them to
succeed,
have a chance to live their life and be happy?
Yeah, exactly. That's so crazy. It's so selfish, and it seems like his personality he just seemed like one of those people that made himself the victim. You know, they fired me, this happened to me, so I'm just going to be devastated and trying to fix things. That's a shame, which goes in line with him killing them. And I mean, it was like a shotgun for, like, hunting, I think, that he pulled out of the trunk. I don't know, like, if you had anything else to say, or, you know, I mean, I really appreciate it, because just hearing it from firsthand, it just brings it, you just realize how many people are actually affected by one single action of another person. And
right, like, I only saw Donna once, maybe twice a year. And, I mean, I can't imagine being her aunt or her grandmother or, you know, her cousin, because it affected me, and I only saw her once or twice a year. When people commit violence, they affect more than just the victims.
Yeah, that's it. They really do. I mean, and you're right. It affects the victims, and, you know, I'm sure there's still family members left, people that never even got to see them. It could have been Aunt Donna, or she would have still been alive. And I'm sure, and then all those people got robbed of her presence, because obviously she sounded like a really nice girl, you know, and Joanne. And their pictures, oh my God, they're so adorable. I mean...
Well, thank you for telling their story and keeping their memory alive, because he shouldn't be able to win. You know, they should live on in our memories and not him.
Yeah.
And not what he did to them, but just remembering them every year on Palm Sunday, or every time I go to Cape May, just thinking about them and remember.
Do you go to Cape May still? And
I do go. I do go to Cape May once in a while.
Yeah.
Actually, I went there last year to pick up furniture for my son, and I drove down. It's on Hughes Avenue. I drove down just to drive by the house to see the Holiday House. I always have to drive by whenever I'm down there.
Is it still open, or is it?
It's a bed and breakfast, but it's closed for the month of July, because that's the month that girls get to come down.
Oh,
but during the other months, I don't think it's open in the winter, but I know it's open in the spring and the fall and August. But July is closed just for the girls.
Okay, I got it. In all these years, and it's like when something like that happens, it doesn't matter how long, it's still like it just happened. When you think about it, when it comes up, like you said, Palm Sunday, it must feel like yesterday, because it's like, it's so traumatic in your head. You know, it's like a trigger. It just brings back that flood of memories, and it feels like no time has passed. It's just...
Yeah, it's been like, it'll be 36 years. 36 years.
36 years. And they were so young. I just, it really, we hear 14 and 13, but when you see those pictures, they were just little kids. And they loved their dad. It really is sad. I had never heard of it until you mentioned it. And like I said, I said to my husband, did you ever hear of a Leon Moser? And he said, oh, yeah. He said, he goes, I know he was executed in Montgomery County, but he didn't really know much of the story. But when I started reading about it, I thought, it's a shame how much this stuff actually happens. You know, that
I think there was only 3 people executed in the 90s. Him, Gary Heidnick, and I don't remember who the third person was. Were the only 3 executed in Pennsylvania in the 1990s.
Yeah. When I looked it up, that's it. He was right. Yeah, it was just the 3 of them. I guess they had reinstituted it in 76, and they were the 3 one had killed his friend. He had an odd name, Zettel Moyer, and then Leon, and then Gary Heidnick. But that's, I guess that was it. I guess Gary Heidnick, you know, that was in 99, and I don't think anyone's been executed since then. The story itself is just, and it's sad because like Gary Heidnick was obviously a psycho who killed, you know, people that he did. Like this, it was even, to me, it's almost, it's not worse or better. It's just worse because that was his kids. Like it's not like, you know, that's your family. That's who you're supposed to take care of. That story really is a sad story. I totally appreciate you talking to me. I really do. It's just adds so much.
I appreciate what you do.
Oh, thank you so much.
Keeping memory alive of all the people, and
yeah, I do.
Their lives are taken by murder.
Can't even imagine. I cannot imagine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Thanks again. Bye. Okay, so that was KP. Thank you so much. I can't believe he was their dad. Let me go through the story now. So that was KP. Now she went to camp with her. I will just go through a little bit about Leon Moser. Leon Moser was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, September 15th, 1942. He was the son of a farmer, and he was the 4th of 5 boys. After graduating high school, Moser spent 2 years attending a Roman Catholic seminary of the Salvadorian order. According to a court-ordered psychiatric evaluation, he left the seminary because of poor academic performance and taught elementary school for 1 year. Afterward, he entered the Army, where he received rave reviews for his performance evaluation Second Lieutenant Moser is cool and calm and is considered by many of his contemporaries to be an intellectual genius. I don't know why this genius used all of his good for... It just seemed like he had from what I've read, he just seemed like he had a lot of anger issues. He had married Linda on April 26, 1969. He met his future wife while he was stationed in Fort Dix, New Jersey. Unfortunately, later she would become his punching bag. He put a knife to her throat and threatened to kill her in March of 1984, and she filed a complaint with the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office. So they were living in Pennsylvania. Now, his family was still in Wisconsin. He grabbed her by the neck, started choking her, and she pressed charges. A hearing was scheduled April 9th, 1985. He said, all I asked from in life was the health to work hard, to support and enjoy my family in a nice house, and with my family participate in the beautiful things that life had to offer. Moser wrote these in one of the notes found in his cars after the slayings happened. However, the people I loved and trusted decided to destroy and further guarantee the total destruction of that right. So right away, as I said, he was a victim. Everything was done to him. Poor me. I really hate that mentality. That mentality drives me bananas. Move on. Stop with the wah-wah. Everybody gets screwed in some way. Everybody gets it. I'm telling you, there's not one person on this planet that doesn't get messed with at some point. And you just got to get past it. I know it's hard, and that's what causes a lot of depression. You go through life, and people are assholes. I'll be the first to admit it. But you have to find the people that you click with. And when you have a wife who, I don't know their situation, but strangling her and putting knives to her throat is not a healthy marriage. I've been in relationships where the fighting was, my God, I've been in some fights, but I don't know, I don't know. There's such a fine line between passion and abuse. And there really is. Because you have to learn when are you fighting because you're, when you, all right, how do I put this? When you're with somebody a long time, say you're with somebody 20 years, and in the beginning you fight a lot because you don't know each other. You're trying to set up those boundaries of a relationship to be in a long-term relationship. I was with somebody for a long time, about 9-10 years, and I knew after those 9-10 years that we would never make it because there was an innate difference in us that we could never get past. And so I got into another relationship. And the fighting was bad in the beginning. Yes, there was, of course, I'm telling you, the fighting was bad. But you're establishing boundaries. And then, after a while, if it's meant to be, you're going to get to a point where you're going to have those boundaries set and what you can take and what you can't put up with. And people are going to respect it they won't. And then you'll see how far your relationship is going to go. And then even then, sometimes you can be together 34 years. Or, I always think of Danny DeVito and Ray Perlman. They were together forever. And then all of a sudden they wanted a divorce. And people are like, oh, why? Well, maybe it came to the end for them. I don't necessarily think that a married couple, I think if you're, say there's a couple together 30 years, and then they get divorced, I don't think that's an unsuccessful marriage. It was a successful marriage. Life is long, and it's short, but it's long. And it's meant to be ebb and flow. And you'll get to where you're going, but not by shooting people. It just doesn't work. There's a way to handle things. So I just wanted to get that out because I think people expect these relationships to be so fabulous and so magnificent. And it isn't like that. You have to get past a certain point to get to the fabulous part. It takes a long time. I just say that because one of the best relationships I ever had. It's I don't want to get too much involved into personal things, but it's a fabulous relationship. And in the beginning, I wasn't so sure. Time will tell, but just don't let your emotions get the better. You think with your head sometimes, not your heart. And that will help you. Okay, so let's get back to the Moser family. I guess he had a job at Sacred Heart Hospital in Norristown, and he had been treated at Montgomery Hospital psychiatric unit for depression. He lost his job. Now, I have a feeling it was due to these anger issues. I don't think some people cannot work for people, like normal jobs. They can't for whatever reason. So he couldn't take care of them. She probably knew this. And then he said, Moser wrote, I cannot leave my children in the care of lying grandparents, and especially with a mother that is a thief, a liar, and an adulteress. Let them remain innocent and rest in peace with me. I think KP was on to something. I have a feeling that he asked for those kids to take him on a walk and kill them. And she knew it, Linda. I think KP was absolutely right in that. In what she said. I do. Now, I have to read through this one, of course not verbatim, but there was such an unbelievable account of what happened in that parking lot that day. The kids are adorable. He looks like a nut job. She looks like, your standard mother who's about to lose her shit because she must know that he's nuts. Now, that day that they killed them, on Palm Sunday, they had went to church. And everybody coming out of that church was probably most definitely not expecting what was to happen. And Alice Barron heard a gun shot. And then she watched as fellow congregants began to run. I mean, they were scared. People were scared. They were hearing shots. They were at St. James Episcopal Hospital in the Evansburg section of Lower Province Township. I had stayed behind talking to some friends, and I was about to go out the door when I heard the shots. These people started running in the parking lot. Now, people were scared. A Collegeville couple driving home from Palm Sunday services, they heard the shots too. They provided the following account of the incident, but insisted they didn't want their names to be, given out because people were afraid too. I guess even if he had been arrested that day, people were scared. They were sitting at the light. It sounded like a firecracker or a car backfiring. I looked toward my husband, and behind them in the parking lot, I saw a man with a gun. The gun was pointed at a woman who was coming at a church. I heard a shot. I just saw her fall. That must have been Linda. Police said Leon J. Moser, 42, had drove a truck with IGM Janitorial Service, had shot and killed his estranged wife, Linda Moser, 35, and their two daughters, Donna, 14, and Joanne, 10, with a deer hunting rifle. Witnesses told police that Moser pointed the rifle at himself as if he was going to fire, but he didn't. It was in the church parking lot. It seemed as if he had shot Linda in the back of the head. The other daughter, Joanne, was shot also in the car. Donna was outside the car, and then he shot her. So she was the last one to be shot. The scene that they met the couple after they left the car was recounted by the husband. There was one woman lying on the ground beside a car. She must have been shot at close range. When we got up to her, she moved once and kind of groaned. She tried to get up off the ground. She made a motion, but then she fell backwards again. The man said the victim was dressed in a red skirt and jacket with a white blouse. Lying within several feet from her was the man, the one who had done the shooting. Witness described the man as casually dressed in a sweater and slacks. He said the gunman was unconscious but alive. I knew he was alive because I could see his stomach moving up and down as he breathed. He was lying on the ground face up, spread eagle position with his arms and legs out. He was breathing, but he made no noise. He was totally out. Another victim, he said, was lying on her side near the church. We couldn't see her face, but she seemed to be dead. The couple said the police arrived at the church within about 5 minutes and asked those gathered to leave. The couple then returned to their own church to retrieve the wife's purse, which she had left behind, and she said, let's pray for the people who died. Then, in a voice choked with emotion, she described the shooting as the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life. The coroner said it was unclear which of the victims was shot first. Apparently, the man was up for a divorce proceeding at Norristown Courthouse on April 8th. That was to never happen. They were in the church, and he asked Linda if she would let him have the kids. She said, go to hell. He couldn't handle it. So when they walked out, and it was premeditated because they call it a deer shotgun, but it was in his car. It was in the trunk. And then they arraigned him, and his mental condition was so bad at this point. He kept begging to be killed. He didn't want to live. Now, a security guard at Sacred Heart said that Moser had worked there, and he said he was a pretty nice guy. That day, he was sitting with his daughter Joanne, 3 pews behind his former wife and daughter Donna. He kept his arm around Joanne the whole time, the younger sister. The Reverend Bud Holland, pastor of St. James, said Moser had accompanied Joanne to the altar for communion during the service. After the service, Griffin said that Moser had a loud disagreement, and someone told him to quiet down. Moser left. Moser sometimes would get mad when the children would come up with excuses not to see him on the weekend. Once in a while, he'd get out of hand and hit her, Donna. He never left any marks or anything like that. He was parked near Linda. He was wearing a brown jacket. Brett said he had made plans to meet Donna Moser at a pizza party at the church rectory last night. Another neighbor, Linda Anderson, said Moser used to walk up and down the road in the evening after the separation. She was nice. The kids were nice. You wouldn't know anything was wrong. They held a special service. Linda never said anything bad about Leon. She never talked down. She said she didn't want to do that because he was going to be the father for the rest of their lives. So Leon Moser went to, so he killed them in this church parking lot. It was a deer rifle. He had asked if he could take his daughters back to Wisconsin. Linda denied. An argument ensued. Donna remained standing by the front of the car. As Linda walked back to the church, Leon went to the back of his car and took out a bolt-action rifle. He aimed the gun at the back of Joanne's head and pulled the trigger. Linda turned around and screamed at Leon, and he shot her in the chest. He aimed at Donna and shot her in the head. Linda turned around and screamed. So it seems like he got Joanne first, Linda next, and then Donna. After the shootings, Leon placed the rifle and fired it into the air. He fell to the ground as if he was shot, but he wasn't shot. Linda and Joanne were pronounced DOA, dead at the scene, while Donna later died at Norristown State Hospital. Moser had reportedly been violent towards Linda in the past. In March 1984, he had pulled a knife to her throat and threatened to kill her. He had also previously grabbed her by the neck and choked her. Prior to the shootings, Moser had recently lost his job as a janitor and was being treated at a psychiatric unit for depression. He was found guilty of the murders and was sentenced to death on January 24th, 1986. He refused all appeals. He did not fight his execution. In 1986, he said, "I just want to die. Just give me the death penalty. Please have it carried out as soon as possible." 9 years later, on August 16th, 1995, at the State Correctional Institution, Moser was executed by lethal injection. He declined to make a final statement, and his last meal was pizza, cold cuts, pasta salad, a cupcake, and Coca-Cola. Since 1976, it was Keith Zettelmoyer who had killed his friend, and Gary Heidnick in 1999, with Leon Moser being in the middle. I did this case because KP said, to be a kid and you're seeing this girl at a camp, it really had to be very sad. And the unfortunate thing is there's so many like this. There's just, true crime, true crime podcasts are out there. And I know some people do the big ones time and time again, but these smaller ones, there's so many of them. You'll never get through all, which is mind-blowing when you think about it. There's no question who did it. There's no mystery to it. It's just one of those sad cases that boil my blood. I hope that the family that's left takes solace and that there are people who care. You know, I mean, there really are. And their names will never die. And Leon Moser, his memory is crap. It's the family. It's Linda and Donna and Joanne that remain. And God bless them. I think this week I got backed up. I'm going to be putting out 2. There's another one. This is a mystery. Now, I cannot imagine what happened to this one, but I have my ideas. And her name is Tony Sharpless. It almost reminds me of, to an extent, the Danielle Imbo Richard Patrone case. It began on South Street, and this one began in Old City, which is literally a couple blocks from each other. And it's amazing that both just disappeared. And I hadn't heard of it. I'm surprised. This one doesn't get as much attention for some reason. I don't know why, as the Richard Patrone Danielle Imbo case. I have my theories about why, but I think because the FBI got involved. But that's a good case. And just to let you know, me and Lyndon, we did the Springfield 3, but we're doing another collaboration because it was very successful, the Springfield 3 one. I think people like hearing both of our points of view. It's like the United States and the UK coming together, and my dog is scratching at the door. Hold on. And the Memphis 3 it's a pretty famous case. Damien Eccles, Jesse Miss Kelly, and Jason Baldwin were accused of killing children, tying them up. I think they were raped as well, and throwing them in the water. I had followed that case for years. It's a scary case. I'm just trying to get everything up on YouTube. This is Debbie Q, and you're listening to The Right Show.